This is a story of Rabbit and its three competitors that were at the heart of one of the shortest lived communication systems ever, or at least in the UK, Telepoint. CT2, marketing name Telepoint, is a cordless telephony standard that was used in the early 1990s to provide short-range, proto-mobile phone services in some countries in Europe. A Telepoint service was seen as providing an alternative form of mobile communications that was cheaper for the operators to set up and run than a mobile phone network, and in turn would offer customers a cheaper product, as during the 1980s and early 1990s, mobile phone technology was still expensive. The idea of Telepoint systems is that customers have a cordless telephone and a base station unit in the home, which work like any other cordless phone system. However, the phone could be taken outside and used in the vicinity of a Telepoint access point. When in range of one of these access points, customers could use their phones to make calls. One downside was that it wasn't possible to receive calls because the system was not a mobile network. These access points were located in large numbers in various public spaces such as the high street, railway stations, bus stations, local shops and motorway services. On the 28th of July 1988, the DTI announced that they would be issuing 4 licences in which to run Telepoint services in the UK. And in early 1989, the UK government announced that from 11 applicants, 4 licences would be awarded to run Telepoint systems for the next 12 years. And those were Ferranti, a UK electrical engineering and equipment firm whose system would later become ZonePhone; Philips, Barclays Bank and Shell, which was BYPS Communications, which later sold the Telepoint rights to Hutchinson in late 1990, who then formed Rabbit; STC British Telecom, Telecom France and Ninex, whose system became PhonePoint; and then finally Motorola, Shea Communications and Mercury Communications, who launched Mercury Callpoint. All 4 companies were granted licences on the understanding that they were to work towards a standardised system that would allow customers to roam between all Telepoint services. This was known as a Common Air Interface, which was also known as CT2, a standard for digital cordless communications. It operated between 864.1 and 868.1 MHz with an output power of just 10 milliwatts, resulting in an operating range between phone and base station or access point of typically 150 metres. Despite the agreement to move towards a common Telepoint standard, by winter of 1990, many manufacturers had already developed their own systems and launched their own separate and incompatible Telepoint systems. 3 of the Telepoint systems were in service with mixed results before Rabbit started operations. In fact, by the time Rabbit came to the table, the concept was in sharp decline. PhonePoint was the first Telepoint service when it launched in August of 1989. A handset cost £245 and a base station £195. Customers also had to pay a £20 connection charge with a monthly rental of £8. Calls were charged per minute at between 10p and 55p off-peak and between 13p and 85p at all other times. The service launched in London and the South East with plans to provide nationwide coverage within a year. PhonePoint was led largely by BT, and the second largest shareholder was STC, who developed and manufactured the handsets. In September 1991, PhonePoint tried to attract customers from Callpoint and ZonePhone, both of which had ceased operations, by offering PhonePoint handsets at reduced prices and by seeking to replace Callpoint and ZonePoint base stations in public areas with PhonePoint base stations. Unfortunately, this never really came to fruition, and the PhonePoint service was closed on the 1st of October 1991, with less than 1,000 registered customers and around 3,300 base stations deployed. Statistics released during the early 1990s showed that PhonePoint base stations in areas of London like Oxford Street were rarely used, which didn't give much hope to more remote base stations. Ferranti's ZonePoint was the UK's second Telepoint service, which launched in October of 1989. Initially, the service was only available within a limited zone encompassed by London's M25 motorway. The handsets had been developed in partnership with Cambridge-based PA Technology and retailed at £200, with additional cost of £235 for a base station. Unfortunately, having failed to secure significant numbers of subscribers, ZonePhone ceased in July 1991. It isn't clear how many subscribers the service attracted or how many base stations were rolled out. Callpoint, the third company, launched on the 4th of December 1989 with the aim to create a nationwide service within 4 months, with 2,000 lines installed and with base stations installed in all towns with a population of over 100,000, with additional base stations on motorways, trunk roads, railway stations and roadside service stations by the end of 1990. Calls were charged at 10p per minute during the evenings and weekends, 16p per minute during weekday afternoons and 20p per minute at other peak times. The handsets were designed by Shea Communications at a cost of £200 with a connection charge of £20 and a monthly rental of £8. At the time of launch, 36 base stations were operational, with a further 500 due to follow shortly after. Having failed to attract sufficient subscriber numbers, Telepoint ceased operations and the network was closed in June of 1991. Arguably the most famous and somewhat more successful of the UK's Telepoint services is Rabbit. The original 3 Telepoint services had all launched in 1989 but had all ceased operations due to poor subscriber numbers by the end of 1991. At this time, the 4th Telepoint provider, BYPS Communications, had yet to even launch their service, and with news stories reporting the concept as a failure, they remained optimistic in securing large numbers in a new Telepoint service, and in February 1991, Hutchison Telecom bought the majority of BYPS. Hutchison rebranded the service as Rabbit and delayed the launch until handsets became fully available that complied with the CT2 digital cordless standard. This meant that the Rabbit service didn't launch until May of 1992. This was a daring move when the previous year saw all 3 services close down. The first Rabbit base station was rolled out in Manchester, with the entire city centre being covered by Rabbit base stations. The service was then rolled out across the rest of the north of England, and there was nationwide coverage by autumn of 1993. Many business analysts and research companies such as CIT Research warned that Rabbit was in dangerous territory from day one. However, Hutchison Telecom was confident that the market existed within the UK for a communication system that offered a cheaper alternative to the mobile phone. Following the launch, it was predicted that 12,000 base stations would be installed by the end of 1992, with subscribers growing up to 20,000. Early signs were very promising, with 1,000 subscribers signed up within the first 6 weeks of operation. A Rabbit handset and base station retailed at £199, with a monthly subscription of £6, and calls were charged an equivalent rate to BT telephone boxes of 10p per minute off-peak and 20p per minute in peak rate. This meant that owning a Rabbit phone cost about a third to half of the price of a mobile phone. However, the inability to receive calls whilst away from home remained a key disadvantage, but for an extra £5.50 per month you could subscribe to an answer and messaging service. When a caller left a message, an alert would be sent to a Rabbit pager. You could then access this message the next time you brought your Rabbit phone within range of an access point. A further development of the Rabbit handset was planned for release in the summer of 1993 that combined a Telepoint phone and pager in one device. However, this never materialised. Following its launch in Manchester, the plan was for the service to be rolled out in London and the South East by October of 1992, the Midlands in November, and then countrywide by the end of that year. The claim was that when fully deployed, customers within city centres would never be more than 2 minutes away from a Rabbit access point. Unfortunately, like PhonePoint, ZonePhone and CallPoint, Rabbit ceased operations and closed its network on the 31st of December 1993, having attracted only 9,000 subscribers. Hutchison had forecasted 50,000 by this time. The company set aside £122 million to cover the cost of closing down the Rabbit service, and existing customers were offered to trade in the Rabbit handsets in return for a new Vodafone or Cellnet mobile phone. This came with free connection and a subsidised subscription for 1 year, or £100 in cash, and a free handset and access to the soon-to-be-launched Hutchison Telecom's GSM mobile phone network, Orange. There was one type of handset and one type of base station manufactured for use with the Rabbit system. Each handset came with a docking station and could be desk or wall mounted. The handsets were supplied with rechargeable batteries and came with a mains charging plug. The base stations also came with a mains plug. Depending on where and when you signed up as a customer, you were given various reincarnations of the manuals and literature to go with the equipment, and there was also the option of a Rabbit PG32B pager, so when a caller left a message, an alert could be sent to your Rabbit phone. You could then access this message the next time you brought your phone within the range of an access point. There was also numerous pieces of promotional material released, such as a promotional keyring that was branded as a Rabbit data key. This contained a paper memo pad that allowed you to record PIN numbers and security codes. This was also included in card form in the promotional data file and address book. All of this could be kept in a plastic briefcase which featured the Rabbit logo. The briefcase was also released as a music cassette holder. Rabbit also released a range of cuddly toys branded with the Rabbit logo. At least 3 designs are known to exist, but these are quite hard to come across nowadays. And other items include a Would You Like to Rabbit With Me badge. The story of Telepoint in the UK is short due to incompatible systems created by companies who wanted their own slice of the CT2 customer segment, limited supplies of handsets, and a decline in market caused by competition from the launch of the second generation digital mobile phone networks based on GSM. While Rabbit was by far the most successful of the 4 Telepoint services, it failed to secure a sufficiently large subscriber base. When the Rabbit service closed in December 1993 with only 9,000 subscribers, Vodafone in comparison had over 700,000 customers on its cellular network. The story continued in Europe with the launch of a trial network known as Birdie by German communications company Telecom. Launched in 1989 as a CT1 system under the name Telepoint, and later returning as a CT2 system, Birdie was another short-lived reincarnation of Rabbit. The handsets and base stations were produced as pre-production prototypes and test units only, and unfortunately these never saw the market. This equipment is scarce and very hard to get hold of. The handsets were produced by Siemens and Telecom, and the base station by Telecom. They were identical to the Rabbit equipment except they were white. However, the picture in the Far East was very different. In January of 1992, Singapore Telecom launched their CT2 service, which sold 1,500 handsets on the first day and secured 10,000 subscribers within the first month of operation. Similarly, Hutchison's Telepoint service launched in Hong Kong attracted 70,000 subscribers and was profitable. Many surmised that the Telepoint was a concept that was launched too late and was unable to compete with the significant development that was being invested in the mobile phone. Had the CT2 system been launched earlier, it may have secured more customers and been around for many more years. But the mobile phone was becoming more and more accessible to the average Joe, and this was something that Telepoint could never compete with. However, the legacy of Telepoint lives on today, reincarnated in every Wi-Fi hotspot in every train station, cafe, restaurant and shopping centre throughout the world.